Let's get to the bottom of this one. Unspoken truths that I miss one. Tap into the minds of the people, rather acknowledge before I dismiss one. Atheists, Muslim, Christians, Buddhists, they all got usage. All got perspective, it's a collective. Get to the bottom where the truth is. With our hearts uncovered. Where detox from all of the lies you smothered. When them tries could have killed you, but with faith you recover. Yup. Peel off the makeup, we finna take off. Never said it'd be a cakewalk. Meditate till we charged up. Execute goes regardless. Decalcify my pineal. Breaking language barriers, we saw millennials. Planets passing age rotations, down me we owe. So down me we know. Sometimes we can be slow, that's why my ears open. Every drop you add could complete the ocean. Speak up, play your part too. Been vulnerable, it's so hard to.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberly, the Unseen Twisted Truth. We're at a People's Podcast. I did not hear the intro. Did you all?
Yes.
Oh,
I heard
Yes,
it.
it is.
all right. Well, whatever. It is what it is. Hey. So, I got Henry beside me.
Hi.
I got Christy.
Well, what's up, Chrissy?
Hello.
I have DDH the Bubble.
Blue.
I had Kendall for a second, but I think she was just, I don't know where she went to. And anyhow, and then we have Gilly.
Hello.
Yay. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Gilly.
You know, you can't win them all. I've been trying to hook these little Capella mics up and try to figure this out so that we can be ready for the event that we got tomorrow. And Henry was trying to help me with that. And then I don't know, I didn't hear the intro, but that's okay. There's times where Gilly's been on and she didn't hear nothing either.
No, and I'm just hoping that technology doesn't drive me crazy tonight. So
I feel that
And
because
right there is where it all gets shut down.
I mean, I think that's the whole conversation, right? It's our technology that's doing it, and we really don't have to have a whole podcast now. That's it. That's the root.
seriously,
Good guys.
technology is something.
Oh,
Especially when you're old, at least like in your mind.
Yeah.
Technology. I know nothing about my phone. I know nothing about the technology I use, and I don't really particularly care to learn it either. And so it leaves me quite vulnerable.
I feel that. Kendall, see, look at Kendall said she was having issues. That's what we're talking about, Kendall. That's what we're talking about. Technology is driving us crazy. Speaking of crazy, what a topic we have tonight. Gilly, you want to tell us about the topic?
Yeah, well, this is actually something that's been on my mind for years. I once had a dream that I was going to prove that psychological abuse is on par with physical abuse, because it causes changes to your body. It causes neurochemical changes to your brain. When it's long lasting, when you don't have other outlets and you're not quite sure how to protect yourself against it, or you may not have the ability to protect yourself against it, for various reasons. And the other reason is because at one point I wanted to sort of explain how certain behaviors can be made to look like incompetence or mental illness, when in fact there's a lot happening in the background behind the scenes that are not being addressed, and sort of educate courts on that. And since then I'm just looking to talk again. Just looking to find words again, because I've been at it for a while. But that's sort of why the topic's been on my mind, is because I think it's one, honestly, that even if you've never been in an abusive relationship or a gaslighting situation, even if you come from a great family, I think that we all can relate to certain things within our culture and our everyday life that can make us feel confused and depressed and anxious. You look at, the news, and it's constantly streaming in. Unless you're constantly looking at cats and babies all day, you're gonna feel a sense of dread. It's the algorithm is put there to do that. Now we have crimes like catfishing, where somebody can hack into your entire phone, change everything, and make you believe in this entire fictitious world that maybe doesn't exist. So I guess where I want to start the conversation is I know that using the word crazy can be a trigger for a lot of people, and I've used it. I've used it a lot. Typically when I do it, it's in a non-specific way. Like in the automated voice messages can make me crazy. It's not, it's like it's not necessarily pertaining to mental illness. I've also had the word used against me, and I've seen it being used against others to belittle them, undermine their point of view, or just stop them from questioning or fighting back. So my first question to the panel is, when you hear the word crazy, is it a word that you think is harmful? Is it a word you think we should stop using? Do you find it triggering, or what does it mean to you?
And who do you want to ask first? How do you want to run it?
Let's just start at the top and go around. So do you want to go first, Kim, or do you?
Okay, I will.
Okay.
So, ironically, I got flagged after I just got recognized by Facebook, because I used the word in the same sentence with mental health.
Mm.
Now, you can't use mental health and the word crazy together because it's frowned upon, and I have a problem with that. I get it. Always get both sides. So I get why it's frowned upon in that aspect, because people used it in to belittle people and to condemn people and whatnot, and to call them crazy is beyond an illness. It's weird though to me that we cannot remove the stigma behind it and get to the main base and just really talk about the issue and why we're so stuck on words without reading between the words and getting to the main point. That's just my opinion on it. I don't look at it that way, because it's a really sensitive thing. I don't know. Henry, you go ahead.
Oh dear. Well, it's a catch-22 that certain things will get you shut down, yet we need to address them to talk about them. And then we are kind of relegated by the bonds of the platform that we are using. A lot of people get mad at that. It's really up to Facebook, whatever they want to say. So I don't know, maybe we'll be manifesting different directions then. Now that being said, crazy. Obvious. I think a lot of people would know that throughout the years, yes, it was used as a very demeaning term. What I did is look up, since it used to mean to crush, break, or shatter, and then it meant diseased, sickly, later, broken, impaired, or flawed. And around the 1600s, it meant mentally deranged. So it was used to describe things in a large group. Obviously, things we put a lot of work into in the medical community to understand and not lump into something like that, and to not demean people for having. So yeah, it is. What it means to me, it doesn't affect me the way I've been called it. I kind of aim it at myself sometimes, but it doesn't affect me like that. I will say it also gained a positive connotation in the 1920s with the jazz scene, where it used to mean cool or exciting. And as as the language has evolved, it can mean extremely or enthusiastic. I've been crazy busy. It's been used as a medium to express levels and things. So what do we do now that we've evolved so much? Interesting topic. I love it. I'm going to move it on.
Christy.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, first of all, yeah. For me, crazy is not such a triggered word because I came up in a time where I knew the difference between someone who was dealing with mental health issues and someone who was being funny, being silly, you know what I mean? And we would just toss the word around and say, okay, oh, you just being crazy, you're being silly. So I can't be but so offended, even though I'm being called it. I can only give that word power within myself. And when I know I'm not, like, okay, you're talking to me like that, then it doesn't have that as much effect upon me because I took control of that word and said, okay, this is what it means to me. And then those that are around me who use the word and have been using the word, we use it again, like either crazy busy or, you're just being silly or funny. And so therefore, I think that it's about the power that we give the words and when we're using them and how we can, which we'll get to, I'm sure, down the line, when one of the things was posed about how can we protect ourselves. And that's one of the ways is by not giving it that kind of power in which that other people may want it to do to get a reaction and gaslight you.
Good answer. Kendall.
I'm definitely with Chrissy for what she stated for how it can trigger you for what you want to use it as a power word, whether you or not you want to agree. This is another word for how we use such things for conversations or joking around. So to me, it doesn't really affect me differently for how you want to use it as.
Yeah. No, I like all those points. DDH in yet or
No, not tonight.
no? Okay. I like those points and I can I can relate a lot to it. I like that, Christy sort of brought it back to how can we empower people to not be as susceptible. And I agree. I think that we use it lightheartedly. We can talk about, oh my gosh, he's so crazy when you're talking about somebody who maybe behaves, rambunctiously or something. I think that the danger comes, for instance, I used to be called crazy or psycho in front of my kids. And typically the catalyst for that would be saying no to something, not agreeing, not complying in some way. But I think that it's also somewhat, for lack of a better term, crazy making all the new words that we now have to be careful about using. I don't know about for anybody else, but for me, who is going through some social anxiety anyway, being in new environments and new platforms, to then have to worry about policing everything that I say because it may be an undesirable term now, it may be an offensive term now. And I do think that we have to progress, right? We have to progress language, we have to progress our values and culture. We have to progress the way that we look at others and mental illness and people struggling with all sorts of things. However, if it gets to the point where we are so afraid to have a conversation because maybe our natural way of speaking includes some of these things, maybe we don't understand the harm that word causes a person. And if we're not even allowed to say it, how can we have these conversations? So does anyone have anything to say on that, or should we move along to the next?
No, you could. I don't know. I'm good. Henry?
I always have something to say. It's not good. I think
Go for it.
I think we're worried about. I think some of the answers that we are going to find are not going to be in how we police words so much as how we have empathy as a species and try to learn how to care for one another. I think that's where it falls down, is not so much the words, but the context and how they're used and aimed at people. I just got to say that.
I do have something to say. I apologize now that Henry said that. This society, has it always been sensitive, or is it becoming more sensitive? Is it the fact that we are able to now, because of technology, able to now to hear things and see things that we normally wouldn't, and we are just acceptable to that we have a choice now, and we are able to say this word bothers me. I would like to tread lightly on this word because you are triggering.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, do you think now, if we're talking about it in terms of mental illness, is mental illness something that you're born with, that you're born maybe predisposed to, or can mental health be either induced, or can somebody be made to look like they have mental health problems? For instance, if they're in a relationship where someone is constantly undermining them in some way, criticizing, making them second guess themselves, possibly doing things behind the scenes that break their idea of reality, causing doubt and isolation between their closest relationships, so that if they reach out for maybe a more objective or more supportive voice, they won't be heard. For in the, what was it, in the 30s and 40s, and I believe they used to put women in mental institutions and say that they were psychotic, say that they had psychosis if they were unhappy in some sense with their lives, and husbands would put their wives there. It was not uncommon, and it was not illegal. If anybody's ever been to a mental hospital, they have this thing where they tell you that you have a right to advocate for yourself, to have a say in your treatment. However, if you decide, okay, I don't think this medication is correct for me, and you want to wait for a second opinion, or you want to see a doctor at least first, they have the ability to hold you down. Now, if you're fighting while 7 people are holding you down, are you mentally unstable? Do you have an anger problem? Do you have a problem with compliance? Or are you reacting to a situation where people are holding you down against your will and your personal agency and forcing you to do something? There are a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists who believe that a lot of the things that we consider mental illness are just normal reactions to things to things that are going on within relationships and environments. So I'll ask the panel, do you think that mental illness can be induced? And maybe I'll separate the two. And I was going to say, and do you think that people can be made to look mentally unstable? But I think maybe we should separate the two. So do you think that you can induce a form of mental illness? And if so, is there accountability on anyone except for the person who now has the mental illness?
I believe that I lost concentration. I apologize. It was a very long question before the ask. I lost concentration. I was gonna answer them both together. We're gonna separate them now. So I do believe that it can be induced. If that's what we're asking first, right?
Right.
I do believe we can be induced. I do believe if you call somebody something long enough, they end up believing that, and they start acting that because they believe that's what they are, because that's what you keep telling them they are. So I do believe it can be induced.
And like, what do you think about, for instance, cults?
Can we keep
funny.
it, not to stop you because you do have the
Mhm.
mic, but can we keep it to one thing because my
Sure.
ADHD is getting all messed up right now.
Well, it's my ADHD that's taken me all over the place because I see
Okay.
them all as connected. So I have severe ADHD and no medication. So we're gonna get through this, I promise. But yes, thank you for keeping me on track, Henry. Go ahead.
Hi, welcome back to Gilly's Island. No, I like the way it's rolling lately. I love how we have a main focus, maybe a host, and it goes around in a panel. We're allowed to go off track a little bit, right? It gets exciting, but I like that. So,
I totally
that
lost
being
track, so
said,
that was
You get to be the
that being
Gilly
said,
Wrangler today.
the Gilly Wrangler.
The
No.
Gilly Wrangler. It sounds like a terrible porn.
I don't mind it though. I'll do it.
So, to answer your question, yes. There's a lot of things can be lumped up to two things, which is hereditary and environmental. And when it comes to hereditary mental illness, let's say you never know you're an alcoholic if you're lived in an Amish community your entire life and never touched booze, right? You go through your whole life without ever delving into that area of your psyche that is maybe fractured or functioning differently than other people's. So living in, maybe you get into these environments where you don't learn to process anything you might have hereditarily, and it's going to exacerbate any of that stuff, anything you got going on. A lot of addiction problems are born out of frustratingly hard living situations. It just happens. So I think environmental influences are a huge part of why people end up with mental illness. um, and then you got, really, when you're being held down, you're going to fight against your will. That's just how it goes, mental illness or not. That's why we should strive to have good therapy, good doctors, good healthcare, mental health care to assess people, so we don't push them to that limit, because that's not good for anybody involved. It's dangerous for the people holding them down too. So yeah, I 100% believe that environmental factors are a huge cause for everything you're saying. And we also have to look into that biological aspect too. But that becomes easier to process when you're not raised in completely traumatizing, triggering situations for the pre-existing conditions you might have. I'll leave it at that.
Christy?
Okay, wow, that was a whole lot.
I know. I totally forgot
I
even that
just
it
felt like
could
I
be
was put into the deep end of the pool, and I was like, okay, all these great points were coming out, and then it was like, wait a minute, there is a question. So I had to get myself together. My life is okay. So actually, yes, of course, I think that anybody to rule out environmental, biological circumstances, pre-existing conditions within yourself that, like a cancer that's dormant, it can be flamed up by something, so definitely it can turn into a mental illness. But when we're talking about the diagnosis of saying, okay, is this person being driven into madness, as we had framed the quote of a crazy, being off kiltered, can that happen? And that is definitely a yes. You can throw somebody else off, because it doesn't take the physical abuse to psychologically get into somebody's mind. I know that several people made this point. And so when you get into somebody's mind like that, it's called retraining the brain. And so now you have to retrain yourself with that word. And people don't take time out to say, wait a minute, okay, I deserve that much to go ahead and give myself grace and know that this person was trying to make me feel this way. And it takes therapy, or it takes good group of people, that you are able to get around and be able to help you pull out of it, so that way you don't get into a misdiagnosis of it. And some people happen to like to diagnose themselves, and then they'll go in and say, yes, I've been dealing with this, that, and the third, to try to see if there's something that can help them to cope with life, which is another thing too. And one more point was that when we're talking about holding people down, I know that they've had to hold my daughter down, and even when she was a child. And it's the scariest thing ever to see, because you have to have the doctors or nurses, they have the security, armed guards there and everything else to hold somebody down. So it depends on what level of mental illness, because if you're just being stubborn and you just don't want to cooperate because you're just like, okay, screw that, it's my right, and they're coming and you know what's going to happen, yes, it's naturally humanly thing that you're going to struggle, and they're naturally thinking that, okay, well, you need to be able to go ahead and get something to be able to calm you down, you know what I mean, or whatever the case may be. It all factors back into what is going on in that situation, and were you actually diagnosed with a mental illness, or are you just going through let's call it a crisis situation where somebody has been abusive to you, and then we can leave it there, and then that way I won't go off
Okay.
the deep end.
SGF Graham, we're gonna get to you for next before Kendall. And Gilly, you want to repeat the question, just the question, nothing other than the question, just so that it's short so he can answer it.
Yes. Do you think that it's possible to drive somebody to a point of mental illness?
And welcome, SGF Graham.
Hello.
Peace. How y'all doing?
Hello.
Good.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh yeah, loud and clear.
Oh, okay. My case, in my case, it didn't drive me crazy. They were able to convince everybody that I was going crazy though.
That was her second part. Go ahead.
That was my second part.
No, that was hers. That was her second
I
part.
had a 2-part question, and that was actually the second part, and we broke it up.
Oh, sorry. What was the first part? Sorry.
The first part is, can you induce mental illness? So I think you and I would both agree that yes, you can cause somebody to look like they have mental illness, but the first question is, do you see it possible for somebody to be who does not have a previous diagnosis, who seems to be functioning regularly or whatever, through either a relationship or some organization or something else, be driven to a point where they now have developed mental illness? Literally driven crazy? Or do you think that's not possible to do to a person?
I haven't seen it personally in my life, but watching life stories with my mama, they whatnot.
All we heard was life stories with your mama, and we didn't hear the last part.
It cut out. It's crazy.
I said, oh, sorry. I said I don't know anybody personally that's been manipulated or whatnot to believe that they're crazy or going crazy.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you? And then the part of the first one was also, do you believe it's hereditary
To go crazy? I mean,
to be crazy?
have
Yeah,
To develop mental illness.
issues.
There you go.
It can be. It can be. I know a family that has hereditary of schizophrenia.
Okay.
So mental issues can be hereditary.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now it's your turn, Kendall.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna say yes for all the above. I'm not sure how to answer properly because there's so many different aspects for how you can see yourself as going mental versus how you don't want to be versus how it could be.
I can see that. So I'm gonna answer the part 2 part of it, and in the part 2 part was, yeah, I believe that people can make you into that or call you that to make themselves look better and to justify for their actions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do believe that someone can call you that just as a gaslighting term or whatever, just to make it makes sense why they are the way they are. So yeah, no, I see how it can be a beneficial if someone just calls you that in a negative manner. Go ahead, Henry.
No, I thought I'd answered. I thought I was one of the first ones to answer.
You,
No,
you answered part one. You didn't answer the part two part of it. The
So
part two.
can somebody without mental illness be made to appear to others as though they have mental illness, or even start to question themselves if they have mental illness, when in fact it may be something else that's causing them to appear that way?
Yeah, that's a key factor. A key factor to remember here is that you can't force hereditary problems. That's one thing you got to remember. The separatory. If you got hereditary things going on, conditions that are passed down, which they pretty much said, yeah, it's a lot of things are. That's true. With your mental health is affected horribly by gaslighting and abuse and trauma, and it's going to mimic symptoms that come from severe hereditary mental diseases going on, if that makes any sense to you. You can't force it one way, it goes the other way. You can be made to look insane, I'm sure. That's another bad one you can't say. You used the word madness earlier. Madness was actually a term that was really, really bad for people too, because it lumped everything into one. But yeah, once again, you get up in a storm of misdiagnoses and people looking in from the outside, and it takes a trained medical professional to really diagnose certain things, and it takes therapists and peer support specialists and people to help with trauma and traumatic incidents like PTSD. So that's
I
the
want
best way I can answer that.
I want to say something before we go further. From this point out, we don't have to walk around on eggshells on this show. If we get shut down, we get shut down. We'll go to another platform. I promise you, it will not end us. I'm tired of having to watch our words. I mean, okay, we will say on a live just because they'll shut us right in the middle. But there's certain things
Right.
that, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of
Yeah.
you cannot talk about something that can help somebody better them and give them another outlook in life in a positive manner because somebody sensitive wants to get affected by it. I apologize. That's way off track, but I don't want to walk on eggshells no more. It's sad that we got to pick and choose our words just to help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers
Well, and
to
then
that.
things go
Can I do it?
untalked about, and it doesn't make anything any better. It just makes the people who are affected by these topics go underground because they know that it's not acceptable to talk. I mean, nobody wants to feel as though something about them is so unacceptable to say or talk about that we are afraid to say words. So yeah.
This is Unseen Twisted Truth. We will go to Rumble or something else.
Yeah.
Oh, we will.
Can I
So,
give a redo on my answer?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I wasn't sure.
Yes, give a redo of your answer.
Okay. I will say that trying to convince the world or convince the people in your circle, your community or whatnot, that the person that's trying to make you look crazy can drive you insane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And almost make you feel like you're going crazy trying to convince everybody that you're not crazy. So
Right.
I will say that.
I like that. I like that answer again.
make sure, Christy, I
I
like
can
that too,
totally
SGF.
relate to
Make
it.
sure
Christy, I
Christy
apologize.
gets-
Go ahead.
Okay. I've been in that situation before, and I will say that it was really hard for people not to believe me because so much was being said behind my back. As I was going through an illness that didn't have a name for it, which became fibromyalgia. So it was one of those things where I looked at it and it made me so angry because I wasn't believed. And it did put me into another form of finally going into a depression, which I never experienced before, outside of postpartum depression. And so I will say that what we have to be able to remember is that if somebody, that's where I think that we can go into where the part is called a mental health crisis versus you having to be fully diagnosed with something, you know what I mean, right away, that they can go ahead and say, okay, you experienced this trauma, you're going through, PTSD. Back in the day, they just would call them, what were they, the mental breakdowns, or they would have another name for it, where your
A
body just
nervous
was
breakdown.
yeah, not only the nervous breakdown, but it was another word that they would use um in terms of how the body would go, because I just can't remember, because it was something so simplistic, and like we said, with all these words and newer words, then I forget that some of the things that were said along the way. But nonetheless, then that's when they realized with me that I had panic and anxiety disorder, and it came through a lot of the traumas. So I realized that even though that might stay with me, and I accepted the fact that I went through a lot in life, when somebody actually attacks you in that way and they know it's very sensitive to you, the best thing that I could do was stop it in its tracks and saying, okay, you know what, if I have to live without these people, then I would rather do that than you talking to one person after the other. And once they hear my story, they're like, oh, shucks, well, you know what, this is what was said about you. And then you realize that you're not crazy, but why would you do something like that to me? And so that's where the therapy comes in. That's where the self assurance comes in, that, you know what, okay, I knew I wasn't, let me go ahead, and so that way I could take this pain and make it my power and utilize the right words to the right people. And then that way it helps you to get out of having to be misdiagnosed as fully going through it. And if you do have to go through it, then they will be able to tell you more depending on how long you've been, circumstantial, situations. So people can do that to you and they can break you down. And it's up to the person who has been the victim of it to take the reins and say, no, I will use this, my pain that you caused me into my power. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. SGF Graham, the part two to that first question. The part two was, can someone make you, or are they?
Make you appear crazy as opposed to actually inducing mental illness. Can they make you appear crazy to the people around you? Which I think you kind of answered when you re-answered, but
You can finish though.
yeah.
You talking to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I
We're
said what
talking
I
to
had
you.
to say.
No, this is part two of it though. This was saying, you were trying to say that someone said something about you and made people think that you didn't get to finish.
Yeah, they basically had everybody thinking that I was lying, like all the way down to my mom.
Wow.
And the only way that I could mentally figure things out, I had to move. I moved completely out the state. In fact, I think I moved like 3 or 4 times before I felt like I could get situated, because I just didn't want to tell nobody about my life. I was like, it's just gonna be some other people that don't believe me. So I was always making up another life where I went, or either being isolated. Like, it hit me mentally like that. I didn't go out striking others or whatever. I just became very isolated. Even though I was moving everywhere, if it was outside of work, nobody knew me outside of work.
That's insane.
You know?
Kendo, part two.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you think that it's possible to make someone appear to others to be mentally unstable, causing them to be misdiagnosed or something like that, or even just framed wrongly in the eyes of the people around them?
I would say the answer would be yes. I've been accused for being mentally unstable. The fact I do have a unique disability called 22q. That's a whole nother dilemma for how I am as a person. And I've been accused for many different types of situations where, yeah, you could be unstable, but what is it? Where later down in the road, I found out what it was. Lots of testings and doctors, everything.
Yeah, I think I've gone through it several times throughout my life where people have done something abusive and then needed a reason that they did that abusive thing. And the reason always fell on, oh, she's crazy. Oh, she's ill. Oh, she's, a danger to herself or others, when the truth is it was covering up their own behavior. I have lost family that I still have no contact with. I've lost people that I was friends with for years. And that in itself, kind of like SGF Graham was saying earlier, can cause mental illness. It led me, particularly this past year, to extreme isolation, which in and of itself can cause depression and anxiety and feelings of hopelessness and purposelessness and disconnection. So, but yes, I believe that we have and we can make people appear to be mentally unstable. I don't think that it's just done in interpersonal relationships. I think that it's done in larger organizations. You think about fundamentalist religions where anybody who has a belief outside of the system is then deemed somehow unfit as a person, whether it's mental illness or something, or they give it another name. You look in cults. Cult leaders are really good at not only making you appear mentally unstable to people outside so that they can further isolate you, but mentally unstable to yourself, because you're questioning things that anyone outside of that environment would have a better, more objective, more sound view on. But because you're enmeshed in this environment or with these people, and so my next question becomes, if it can be induced, should there be fault or accountability attributed to people who do this on purpose, who purposely gaslight, who purposely smear people, who purposely spread rumors, who purposely gaslight, and affect your mental health or your appearance of mental soundness? Should there be consequences for people or organizations that do that? Or is that a slippery slope?
Oh, I love that you threw slippery slope in there because it is a slippery slope. But yes, there should be. But at the end of the day, somebody has to be the goat, like the deer of it. Someone has to be. What do they call that back in the day when you had someone take the fall for everything that somebody else did? Somebody has to,
The scapegoat?
yeah. So somebody has to be that. So they're going to put somebody in that. I think that how society's ran and how it is formed for us to all think we're delusional on purpose. And I believe that there's a lot of hidden agendas for reasoning why, because you can't manipulate somebody if they know the answer and if they are of sound mind. It stems all the way back from the Bible to whether we were apes or not, to slavery, all of it. It's to have power over someone's mental means you can get away with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But who are you going to really pinpoint it to? Because if it comes down to it, would it be their parents of whoever gave birth to that person, or would it be the society itself in a whole? It couldn't be the government. That's all. All of it's bullshit. So who would really be at fault that it drives us insane? Who would be the main target? I'm going to talk about self. Because once we remove the triggers, we won't have triggers. Once we start healing ourselves and breaking ourselves from the bullshit that we're being told and realize what's real and what's not, then we're able to help others. We cannot pour from an empty cup. That's just my opinion. And I'm going to let Henry take over.
Real quick before you answer, Henry, what you were reminding me of with your answer is one of the first times I ever had that thought is when I heard about a pretty infamous school shooting, and I'm not going to bring up the particular one. However, it was found that these kids were bullied pretty badly on a regular basis by multiple students, and that is not an excuse. A lot of us have been bullied. A lot of us do not go, unalive people. So I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but I remember thinking then it is a factor. It is absolutely a factor. They did not have a place that they could go and not be picked on and ridiculed. And when you're young and don't see another way out, should those bullies be held partially accountable? Is the consequences of what happened enough? So
Let
I'm more
everybody,
talking about
Gilly, I'm gonna wrestle you for a second there, and then let everybody
Yeah.
answer that before we go too far, please, because
Okay.
I'm gonna lose it.
I get it. I
Okay.
got it.
Go ahead, Henry.
All right, let's see. So how do
Am
you
I
do
driving
it,
you
right?
crazy?
No, you're not, honey. I can handle it.
I pretty much identify as crazy since we're not walking on eggshells anymore. I'll just go full potato salad every chance I get.
Thanks.
It's what do you do? Do we now manipulators, especially manipulators who get to that level of manipulation, they're cunning, right? It's kind of hard to pinpoint what they do at this point. Now, legally, we could say that people like that, you get domestic violence is what it can be lumped into, and coercive control, which you don't hear a lot of, but probably we should be hearing a lot of a little bit more because it happens a lot. These types of things, they're probably just not looked into enough. I don't know. It just happens a lot. And aside from communities having a strong enough standing to put out like community witch hunts, like, hey, Phil's an abusive asshole and everybody knows it. Are we going to let this go? No, we're going to roll our sleeves up and we're going to go teach Phil a lesson in the town square. We can't do that now. So it becomes kind of a hard deal of how we figure out these situations and then put legal ramifications in. And because once again, you got to pry into somebody's whole personal life and stuff to figure out a lot of this stuff. It's not easy. I like how you said slippery slope.
Yeah, I do too.
Because it's essentially you're being guilty of being an asshole.
Henry, do you see that? Do you see the comment though? Because after you're done, you could read it because it won't let me.
I see no comments. Is it Cool Vibes introduces?
Yes, it won't let me highlight. So you say your stuff first, but afterwards, will you read that?
I certainly will because I love reading it, and I'm pretty much gonna wrap it up there. I mean, it's like I keep saying it's going to take communities to achieve real things, and I mean that. It's going to take things outside the bounds of how things operate normally, and people willing to get a little bit uncomfortable to get more comfortable to start figuring out problems like this. Now, with that being said, I'm going to pop in here and say Cool Vibes Introduces says, we manifest our own destiny through our intentions. Our choices will lead us into the intolerable chaos without having the right influences or self-awareness. I mean, I'm inclined to agree with that. But I also want to move this mic down.
Yes.
So I made my point.
Christy.
Okay. Dag, the question again. Y'all making some like Some heavy statements here. It's like, wait a minute. Okay.
So we have basically concluded that yes, we can prove that mental illness can either be induced or at least a
Mm-hmm.
mental health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, Henry brought up coercive control, that a lot of it falls under
Mm-hmm.
that spectrum.
Just a
And
question.
so
Just a
can
question.
should people be held accountable if you can prove that they're intentionally causing somebody a mental health crisis or mental illness? And is it a
Well,
slippery slope?
yes, it is a slippery slope. Thank you for that, Gilly. Yes, it is, because again, then first of all, it's about the prosecution of somebody. Would it fall with what Henry said, or domestic violence? Not even so much violence, but domestic abuse or a disturbance, something that racks up some type of paper trail about that person. Because what we call the predators and prey, you know, that there's people out there who love to be a predator and go out there and do things to and prey upon people for many different reasons. And so therefore, even like you talked about with the cults, different types of religions and stuff like that, that yeah, it became a thing to where now it is about individuality coming together as community to be able to say, okay, this is where we need to go ahead and have some accountability going on here. And we're going to enforce that accountability in a way that, you know, may not be comfortable for everybody, but we have to get things back on track because we've slid so far away from people being accountable for things that they're doing. And it's like, because you're leaving a trail of things, and so, and then what can the laws be done on that, you know? I mean, is something, another thing, because again, if it comes against a religion where you have a cult leader or a religious leader or something like that, a person of faith, then they take it up and say, wait a minute, you know, they're going to protect certain things, you know what I mean, that helps control society as a whole. So we just have to be understanding that we will not be that prey. And as we go through this, and other people who are listening, and the ones that are younger to the ones who are just starting their journey, their healing journey, and taking back their power, that this is the right kind of conversation of saying it really starts within us, and we gravitating towards others who are in the same way, because you can't do it to a whole bunch of us. I always say the few do not outweigh the many. And when we become that many and that mighty, then there's no more questions. That's how history has shown, and we can do it.
That's Jeff Graham.
Can you give me just the question again?
Should there be accountability if it's found that someone has driven someone to mental illness or to appear mentally ill in a way that's affected their life?
Give me an example of holding them accountable. Like
For
what?
instance, we can hold people accountable for beating someone. Gaslighting is another form of abuse, that it doesn't use hands or leave physical bruises. Should gaslighting be something that or coercive control, intimidation, be something that we can hold people legally responsible for if we can create some sort of paper trail or timeline that can prove that this person has been calculated in their efforts?
You probably can in civil court, but do I think that you should be able to? Probably not. It's a bunch of billion people in the world. It's sad to say it's just part of the characteristics that come with 8 billion or however many billion people they say it is. Like, that's just my honest opinion with it. It's The negative and the positive is all there.
I agree. And Kendall said she'd be right back. So
I
she
actually
said,
wanted to ask Kendall also if the laws in Canada cover more forms of coercive abuse and control, because I do know in Europe they do. So this is not a question that hasn't been asked. I know
Kendall,
that.
Kendall, are you back? No.
No.
No. Because she said be right back.
All right. Do we want to give her a minute before we move on to the next thing?
Well, we're already 55 minutes into it. So that's why it's up to you. I mean, because we can come back to her. She'll say she's back and then we'll come back to her.
Right. I remember one of the things that I had tried working on at one point was a timeline. And because of my ADD mind and because of the amount of trauma, my ability to put together a coherent timeline, when I can't even put together a coherent question half of the time, one that stays on track, was overwhelming, and there was no way that I could hire the legal team that I would need sort of to unravel it. But I think that I can see both sides. I think that I have seen in my life and some other people that I know how it has changed their relationships. It's changed their economic status. It's changed their families. I know that, for instance, it's changed everything about my life, not just my mental health. And it's, in a sense, made me a criminal for getting sick. And Christy always, is turning it back to empowerment. And I think that's where I want to move next in the conversation, because I think that's the part that I always get stuck on, is when people don't have good support groups, or people don't know who their support group is, when people maybe don't have the same abilities or are not neurotypical and may be more susceptible. This is Autism Month. There are certain pockets of people that may be more vulnerable. And so if we want to move on to the next question, I
No,
guess my
she's
next,
back now.
no? Oh, she's
now.
back? Okay.
Yes. You have to ask her the question though. And then you have to ask her about, is it different in Canada?
Okay. Do you think that people should or can be held accountable for abusive behaviors that fall under coercive control and intimidation, gaslighting? Or do you think it's too much of a slippery slope? And does Canada, I was saying, I know Europe has some laws against it. Does Canada have any laws against that type of abuse?
I would say yes. We're very restrictive with any kind of abuse, physically, emotionally, or any kinds. We have more restrictions lately due to for what's been going on. There's always new laws every 5 to 6 months, I would say, so it's hard to keep up for what's been happening lately. With any kind of abuse, it's either you want to deal with it or you don't, or you report it or you don't. So it's pending on how bad the situations are versus any kind of abuse for what Canada wants to do, if it wants to get acknowledged or not for the accountability of it. So it's really up to you for what you want to do.
Okay. And that is another factor. And I think that goes into the question of, how do we protect ourselves and how do we protect others? I know that, for instance, I still am afraid to speak on a lot of it. I speak around it. I speak in circles, but yet it tends to dominate all my conversation at the same time, just not with the right people. So how does one get to a point of empowerment when they're not sure where to go? how does one protect themselves against that kind of thing?
I believe that everything happens for a reason, even the stuff that makes no sense to us, all the way down to a passing of someone. I believe there's lessons that we all must learn from it. I believe everybody has a purpose and a journey to make a difference and be the difference. I don't feel that it's one person that could change how it's written. And I don't and I do think that the only voices should be spoken for are those that can't speak. Anybody who does speak for themselves and can speak for themselves should speak for themselves, all the way down to even if you don't have a foot to stand on. Until we are able to take accountability for what we allow and what we accept, there will never be a change. Because once we start loving ourselves correctly and taking accountability for what is going on in our lives, then we are able to make a difference because we'll see different. You can't change your life, but if you change your mind, you can watch how your life changes. It's all about how you perceive it. And that's just my opinion again. I do think there has to be way more accountability. And I do believe that we do need to speak for those that can't speak. But if you can talk literally, even if you don't have money backing you, you will find a way if it's something you truly, truly, truly are meant to. What's written for you is written for you. That's my opinion. Henry.
One more time on the phrasing of the question, as fast as you can. It's just, what can we do? I need to hear it again.
How can we protect ourselves if we find ourselves in a situation where we think that someone is literally, or something is literally making us have a mental health crisis or long-term mental health issues?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. So, I Googled emotional abuse help, and that's just from someone hears this and wants to know what to do. And it came up National Domestic Violence Hotline, and then there's Emotional Abuse Center, 1-800-Psychological Abuse Respect. There's a few different resources that came up right away. Now, I can't attest to those if they help or not. Reaching out though is a good thing because a lot of people suffer in silence, and it's, I guess, scary to reach out for a bunch of different reasons. But reach out. I don't know if these resources work. I would like to hear some feedback on that because I don't ever hear any feedback on it. And some of the few people I've talked to regarding peer support and what they've been going on, they just flat out wouldn't reach out to these places. Maybe they treat them bad. Maybe we have some input on that. But if that's the case, then there really should be more resources for people to reach out to. That's all I can say. It always goes back to, it takes community for me, and we need to have more resources for people to reach out to.
And before we pass the mic on, I want to say though, what I was trying to say at the beginning was that if you don't speak though, then nobody will know. And maybe they're not meant to know, but you have to speak. People have to talk.
To someone.
Huh?
To someone.
To someone. You have to say something to someone. If not, then that's just how it's going to be. There's got to be a lesson learned somewhere. And if you do that inner work of healing self and realizing that it's not all you and that someone should be held accountable for it, then you have to say something. But nobody can read what's inside of you if you don't say nothing. That's all I wanted to say on that first part of mine. Go ahead, Christy.
Yes.
Okay. My theory is that when you're looking at resources for what Henry just pulled up and those types of things, it can be a bit intimidating to people or whatever. We are on now social media. And so watching a podcast like this is something that is very easy for other people to do, to say, wait a minute, these people connect, and I connect with these people. And they made this connection with me to understanding on how to go ahead and have the tools to empower myself. And first of it is to accept what has happened without blame. Give yourself some grace for being in that situation. If it has happened to you before, I know it has happened to me on multiple occasions. And it grew to a point where I had to literally break inside, because I used to be cool about it and say, oh, you know, I may bend, but I don't break. But it took me a breaking point in order to take the pieces of my life and put it back together, and the things that no longer fit, just let it go ahead and sweep it away. You know what I mean? And throw it in the trash. That, you know, that shattered glass is what I don't need anymore. So I had to literally build myself back up into being a part where taking the reins of my pain and just one subject at a time, being able to deal with it. And I like what Gilly said about a timeline, because I never thought about it until last year when I was talking to a woman who was a therapist, and she was suggesting that I go ahead and do that. And it's the hardest thing that I ever could do, and I still haven't gotten very far with it, because it really puts it into perspective. Now, because I'm a writer,
Can you
and
please
know,
repeat that
people-
last part? You cut out for a minute and I wanted to hear all of it.
I'm sorry.
You cut out for a minute and I did want to hear all of it. You were talking about the timeline and
Oh yes. Okay. Can everybody hear me?
yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry. So what it is that with that timeline, it has taken me the longest time to try to even complete, because of all of the things that I could not believe I went through. And so because I am a writer and a poetess, and going into spoken word, I have utilized now and started opening up in that area, to where I've exposed and allowed my thing to be vulnerable, you know, within me, but also to be able to take charge of what, if somebody comes up and has something negative to say about, you know, what is going on. So I have to open up, like as Queen was saying, we have to open up in some kind of way and get that pain out and say, this is what's going on. And so doing a timeline is one of the things that I would recommend people to do. And again, just don't try to put all into it. Take your time with it, but be persistent about it. And within journaling, and then again, going out there and within social media and saying, wait a minute, these people, like, you know, any one of us, they could be listening to or looking at our page, and then say, oh, wow, this person can connect. Do not be afraid. Do not let fear, let me put it that way, do not let fear override you, because we can do things afraid. We can do things scared, okay? I've done it so many times, you know, I've done it nervous and, you know, going through a panic attack, but I went ahead and did it anyway, you know. So don't try to control so much of what is going to happen. You want to brace yourself a bit, but allow things to come to the forefront, so that way you can go ahead and deal with it. I did not realize how much stuff I had to deal with, but it was really beautiful to go through it and see the difference in myself and the person that I used to know, you know what I mean, and just at a wise place. So the empowerment part is to take every step, see it through, and do not back away because the emotions of it and all. Find the people that will be a part of your tribe. It may not be inside your family, but again, I will use this podcast as an example. And then you're able to reach out to people and say, oh, wow, okay, because it's a conversation. People want to have conversations, you know what I mean? And to be not just heard, but understood. So please, everybody, take and continue on your path and be open to things going into a different direction. As me, I never thought a spiritual healer would be the one to crack the code for me. I always thought it was going to be someone who was Christian. So when you open up yourself to being able to say, I want truth, then it will come in and I want healing. And then you allow it to be able to be said out loud. Wait a minute, I'm taking this pain and I'm putting it back onto that person because it doesn't belong to me. I didn't deserve it. I didn't want it. I don't want it. Just like if you sit up there and have somebody who's bringing you mail and you know it's crap, you're smelling crap coming from it. Are you going to receive that box or anything? No, return to sender. And that's my point. Thank you.
I agree. I agree. SJ
Return to
Graham.
sender.
I'm gonna really need that question again.
Oh boy, we've got so many places. I almost need that question again too. I might. How do we protect ourselves?
Once again, I can only base it on me. And I don't necessarily think it was the healthiest route. It worked in the end, but I'm pretty sure it was something that was better. I completely isolated myself and did a whole shadow work and just rebuilt myself to what I needed to be versus what I had going on. Like, I felt like the whole crash was bound to happen, and if it didn't crash at that point, everybody that I left behind, except maybe 2 people, crashed bad, and I would have been around at least one of that. If it wasn't for those things that I didn't need that made me uncomfortable to where I went to go find my comfortability. And it took a long time, so maybe it's another route, but that was what worked for me.
Kendall.
Oh, I don't know where to begin. To protect yourself, same question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You could surround yourself with good people. Somebody you trust. If you want to talk to them, do so. To protect yourself is either you want to be social or not, depending on how you want to have a good conversation or not. Just try to be open. Find somebody you trust.
Gilly, I love this for you. How can you protect yourself?
Yeah, see, that's the question that I was dreading the most, because in the past I think I've had so many answers and I was so sure that I knew the answers. And I think I'm at a point now where I'm not so sure anymore because one, I was not always focused on protecting myself, but on the people that I consider more vulnerable in this situation. I was more concerned about protecting them. And anything that I would say to protect myself when I felt as though they were not being protected felt wrong, felt shameful, felt selfish, narcissistic even. So I also was not raised really to know ways to stick up for myself, and I would stick up for myself or stick up for others, and often there were consequences or punishment. I love that you actually did a timeline. I've been feeling like I need to do a timeline for a long time because I have trouble filling in the holes. When you're gaslit, when things are purposely hidden from you, it makes it hard to fill in the holes. It also makes it kind of hard to face yourself and how you reacted in the moment, and how maybe knowing a little bit more now you wish you had reacted. But I think I'm going to revisit that timeline and see if that's helpful. And then Kim, I was feeling myself having heart palpitations when you were saying you have to speak for yourself. And you know, I know that you are right. I agree with you. I know that I have also spoken up The last time that I really spoke up to anyone in authority, I was accused of having some sort of psychotic delusions and put on put on medication and labeled mentally ill. Literally what this whole thing is about. But I need to keep talking. People need to keep talking until the right people hear and the right help is found. So I think that's where I'm at. And I really appreciate you guys allowing this conversation to happen, because I still have more questions than answers on it, and I hope it's a conversation that people keep having.
You know what I love most, though, is that when we did the Pass the Mic and I approached you first, you weren't ready because you weren't there within self. You were having a moment where you weren't you. You were allowing your demons get the best of you. And I'm calling them demons just because it's something we don't like within self. So I'm not
Right.
labeling it as in demonic, nothing. I'm saying the power that had over you within your own mental. And so when I asked you to reproach, and you asked for a different day, and so happened to work out that SGF Graham wanted a different day, so it all worked and wonderful. And I approached Christy and she was willing, and so we did it that way. I'm proud of you for picking something that affects you for you to talk about. And when I said say something, this is you saying something, because when I first approached you, you didn't have a voice and you didn't ask for help. And same thing with SGF Graham, same thing with Christy. When I first approached people, they didn't ask for the help, and they didn't ask to have their voice heard and help empowering for you to talk about something that's affecting you. So I commend you and applaud you. And that's what people need to realize. What you're looked at when you were younger, or the old you, is not who you are today. So say something. Even if you think that no one will believe you, say something, because you never know, the right people will hear you. So I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
I'm
giving
proud of
us the
myself that I
opportunity.
showed up tonight, because I know those demons you speak of, and
SGF Graham.
and they did not want me to come. They're called lack of confidence.
I thank you, though, for trusting us. I thank you for finally standing up and speaking. I thank you for finding your voice. So not thank me. I thank you. I thank you for doing it, because this is healing for you. This is your first step to having your power back.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you. Thank you for allowing us to be your safe place. And that's what it is, you guys see out there that's listening and that hear this. It's not about just us personal. We only can go on our personal opinions, and we only can talk about what we personally deal with, because anything else is bullshit. I'm just letting you know. We can't tell somebody about somebody else. But at the end of the day, if you're afraid, no one will know. You can be afraid and still speak on it, but don't allow that fear to shut you down. Because SGF Graham, the first thing I said to you when I spoke to you is just ask. Talk to me.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So say something to somebody. Go ahead with your next question, Gilly.
Well, and I think that the thing that I wanted to end on it is, how do we, and you've sort of started to touch on it, you've created a platform, you reach out to people, you say, you say something, you encourage them to use their voice and provide an opportunity, and with music, with mental health, with a lot of things. But in a broader spectrum, how do we protect others, particularly those that would be considered more vulnerable? And how do we protect ourselves in a more communal sense. For instance, you can even get a sense of dread going online, and it's all bad news, and it's all fear mongering, and the world's going to hell, and so how, and some of that is algorithm and marketing related. Some of that is intentional. So how do we protect the most vulnerable?
No, I'm telling you, we don't. And I'm not.
No.
I don't mean to be heartless with this, but we don't, because everybody's journey is their journey. Some people are supposed to go through that, grow through that. We can't. We can't if we can't protect us first. It all starts with self. And I'm gonna let DDH say something with on that before we go into the second question, because he only has 10 minutes. So I'm gonna let him answer that last question, and then
Hello.
say something.
Hey guys, great show tonight. Great subject too.
I mean,
Hi, husband.
And, well, what was that question again?
Oh, jeez. Can I have some help from the panel?
Yeah.
I mean, we can all sort of chime in with what we think it was.
You can even do anything. Say anything. You know what the
where
subject's
does
about,
Squirrel
so
come
say
from?
anything about it.
Yeah. So, well, I do know. You know, as far as like driving me crazy, literally. I mean, if I can say what that subject means to me, I think that sometimes what happens to us is what we allow. As far as if people can control how we are on the mental level. So I mean, I think that if you allow people to get you there and take you there, then they can drive you crazy. Literally. I think at the end of the day, we have to set boundaries and just um, what we will accept and what we won't accept, and to keep us in a better headspace. That makes any sense.
No, for sure. And I'm gonna answer the last question, and then before Henry does, we'll let you go off the next question too. And then the next question is, do we speak out for those that don't speak? Right, Gilly? Go to the last one.
As far as there are people, the last question.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are more vulnerable to certain types of abuse than others. And should we speak up for them? How do we protect them?
And I was saying, we only can worry about self, because if we don't be mindful of self like if you change your mind, once you change your mind, your whole life will change. And that means including how you see things, including your algorithm, including who surrounds you. Those that are with you aren't supposed to be with you. The people are supposed to go. Not everybody's supposed to grow with you. People are supposed to either just you grow beyond them and outgrow them or whatnot. So, DDH, do you think that you have to speak up for those that can't speak for themselves? Do you think that you can, or what can you do?
I mean, I mean, when I think about it, is there really some that when I say like, is there some that can't think for themselves? What are you doing? I sometimes feel like we all have control of the situation, even if we don't feel like we do. If someone struggles with it, I, I guess you can assist them with it. But at the end of the day, I feel like we all control that situation.
I agree. I agree. But honestly, I do believe that if once you change your mind, you change how you see things. I think your whole world will change. Henry, go ahead.
Okay, how can we help them? Should
Yeah.
we help them?
Yeah.
Well, my door is always open for peer support, so that's one thing for everybody. And then if you want the answer I would give without a filter on it is we're not living in caves and fighting off fucking saber-tooth tigers anymore. We're supposed to be civilized. We live in a situation where we shouldn't necessarily just watch people fend for themselves. If I see something horrible happening, like a fight in public or someone getting abused or something, I think 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to intervene, unless the situation is so freaking dangerous that I don't even know. I'm having a hard time calculating that. I've intervened in some dangerous situations. I will continue to. I got the shit kicked out of me my entire life, so it gives me great joy on a personal level as my own human being to be able to intervene in situations and try to help people any way I can. I think that's one of the best ways I'm going to get ahead as a human because I don't put a lot of stock in what happens after or before. And just you get a beautiful experiences through helping others, I've learned. And you miss all those if you don't at least talk.
Yes. Christy.
Okay, yes, there are people that are more vulnerable than us, and as we talked about on Tuesday night with autism awareness, is that like with my daughter, she definitely would need intervention. And so people, whether they're children or adults, yes, and I agree with Henry. And I'll always agree with, and I'll stand 10 toes down with Henry because you know what? You're never too old to sit up there and be able to stand up and say, look, you know what I mean? This is my last defining act. You know what I mean? I will have to fight for the right of somebody because that's how I was built. That's how I was born and raised. So I would definitely say to do that. Now, if it's somebody, like I said, of course, it's got a dangerous situation is where you know that, wait a minute, I don't have something that could stop this person from attacking me in a vicious way, if I go in there and intervene. But I can also call 911. You know what I mean? And I can do something and just be able to try to do the best that I can. But me understanding that I love to serve people, I knew I was going to be a missionary, and that's what kind of life that I've always lived is to be able to serve others and to hear and listen to things and be able to talk about them. So I will reiterate what Henry said is that I'm here to open up and be able to talk about it because going through the process, I just never thought it was never ending process to get to a place where I can be actually empowered and to go ahead and share my knowledge and wisdom with others and still learning. Because if you think that you've learned everything and then you're done, then you have just fooled yourself. You played yourself on that. So that's my answer. Thank you.
So, husband, I want you to say something positive before you have to go because you have 2 minutes. So, say something positive for the people.
Uh, every day is a new day. So when you wake up, just remember that. Be happy and know that if you ever going through anything, that be here at the Twisted Team is to have our doors open to help.
Thank you, husband. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
Love
Love
you.
you.
SJF Graham,
Yes.
Gilly, you want to do that last question?
How do we protect? Are there people that need to be protected, and how do we protect them?
Yes, there's people that need to be protected from people that don't have that are not able to handle themselves in physical situations or mental situations. Do I try to protect everybody? Protect the needed. Um, I hate to be a judge of it, but sometimes I see characters and I see that they might need to go through this situation a little bit just to see if they can situate themselves. And if I see that they can't situate themselves and the person has recognized that they can't, and so now they're maliciously coming after them, then I intervene. Um, but of course, working with autistic kids for a little over a year, I'm very protective over them or whatever. I have to guard myself from stepping out of boundaries when the parents should be doing more. I have to watch what I'm saying. Um, so I have to pull back my protective nature at work. Like even when it's against the other RBTs and I see they're being favorable with their child and they're using the fact that this child over here is nonverbal, so he's not or she's not going to defend herself, and they're just going to let their child take it. Like I step right in and switch that up real quick, and I have to watch myself. I'm very protective.
I like that.
Mhm.
Kendo.
The answer would be yes. I'll always be there to help out whenever needed, and if not, then this is part of life for learning as you go.
You know what I've noticed, that everybody on the panel has ADHD or ADD. And the thing is that we all came together and met because we were all looking for change and wanting better. There's a purpose. Having this platform is a purpose. Being who we are is a purpose. Being willing to listen is a purpose. I can't, and I don't want to say it seems like it's hard or cold or anything. I can't speak for my grandchildren because they're supposed to grow through this that they're dealing with right now. Do I think it's fair? No. I didn't think it was fair when I was a child, dealing with my parents and what they were doing to me. I don't think a lot of things are fair. Now, if they're getting physically hurt and they're getting physically harmed and stuff, then I think someone should say something, put a stop to it, yes. But when it comes to unhealed behavior of parents trying to put them in the middle and cause chaos and stuff, I have to protect me first, because I can't protect nobody with an empty cup. I can't pour into somebody when I don't have ground to stand on. Then I will look like the whole definition of this show.
I don't think you're wrong either, Kimberly. Honestly, not to butt in too much. Just we can go back and forth sometimes, but I don't think you're wrong either. I think it's important to protect yourself. You don't want to end up in situations where it makes it non-beneficial for all parties involved, for sure.
Mhm.
So
So
it's good to
so
be.
Gilly, to say to you that I'm just gonna cut through the bullshit and read between the lines. You weren't supposed to do more for your children. You did your part, and making them safe was it. You can't protect them for what they're supposed to grow through, and it's shitty. It's shitty. Your children ain't the only one that have done it either, and that's not making anything better. I'm saying there's going to be something greater out of this. You're going to
May
be
I say
strong.
something really quick? Because on that point, yes, I just want to say to Gilly, absolutely, my kids are grown. They have great careers. My daughter with autism is not able to work. However, she still lives, a good life according to her needs. So even through traumas and what kids see and they grow up as teenagers, stuff like that, they are smart when they're grown, and they will come out stronger and better. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Queen.
And also, I was just going to finish this real quick, and I'm going to pass it on to you. I was going to say that if I didn't grow through what I had to grow through, all the way from everything of even this year, I wouldn't be who I am today. I'm so grateful for it all, including me fighting for life, including all this other stuff. I'm grateful because I found strength in my pain, and I have 2 feet to stand on, and I believe in myself, and I know who I am, and I know what my purpose is. You have to go through something in order to grow through something, to be somebody. So it's shitty watching it happen, and it's shitty not thinking you could do anything about it, but you did. And even speaking on it is doing something about it. Everything is a reason for what it is. So I just want to say, again, I'm proud of you, and you're it's going to be huge. Whatever it is, it's going to be huge. And your kids are going to be grateful for it.
Yeah. That's a hard one for me. Oh,
I know, but you have to hear it.
I think I am only starting to feel permission to fight for myself. And it's going to be a lot for me to let go of everything that I think that I need to still do for them. So respectfully, I'm just taking that all in right now.
What's the first step, do you think, to recovery?
That's been a hard one for me, because for me, I feel like it's ongoing. That I'm trying to heal a leg that keeps getting run over, if that makes any sense.
No, it does.
So my first thing would be to learn either what is causing it to what is making me still vulnerable to having my leg run over, or what is causing me to feel as though my leg is still being run over.
Okay.
Can
I put a pin in what anything else you're going to say and ask everybody else to come back, and I want you to take it, because I want to hear if your opinion has changed in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to say the first thing of healing is acceptance. Henry, what do you think the first thing of healing is for you?
For me or for Gilly or anything?
Life.
Acceptance is generally the first step. Understanding, yeah.
Chrissy, what do you think the first step is?
It is. That's the beginning, is the acceptance, and you give yourself grace while you're going through that.
Okay, SGF Graham. Oh, I think we lost him. Nope, he's down here. Hold on. SGF Graham, what's the first step to heal?
Dan already said it. Acceptance, understanding.
Kendall, what's the first step to heal?
Acknowledging and accepting, understanding.
Gilly, what's the first step to heal?
Oh boy. Acceptance. It's a good one.
What are you doing right now, Gilly?
What am I doing right now?
Yeah. Are you accepting?
Yeah. I mean, what other choice do I have, right?
You don't. And that's the thing. So eventually you won't feel like your leg's getting ran over all the time by everything, because you're doing what you're supposed to, and that's accepting. That's the hardest part. Everything else falls in place afterwards. So giving yourself grace is the biggest thing ever. Like Miss Christie said, give yourself grace, because that's what you have to do. You already did the first step, and that's acceptance. Accept what was and accept what's to be. But accept it for what it is and what you can do with it. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is bullshit in between that causes more chaos for ourselves. If you revisit your timeline, don't put too much effort into it and allow whatever just comes to your head pop in. I think you overanalyze, and that's why things are too hard, because you're looking for something deeper than what it really is. Because it don't make sense. But you just accept the bullshit for not making sense, and this is what it is. It's bullshit and it makes no sense. But it will. It will once you heal. The dumbest thing, and then I'm gonna end it and have a big positive note. But the dumbest thing got me to realize the most important lesson ever. I was constantly trying to make a situation better by saying, giving out other scenarios, like maybe I'll just forget it. I just won't even. It's too late for those other scenarios because, like when I locked myself in the out of a room, and I was saying, I called her up and said I locked myself out of the room. The heat's on in there and the lights on, and I can't get in. And it was like 12 something in the morning, and she took a sleeping pill. She is my friend, as my sister. So when I called her, I said to her, because she's like, I just took a sleeping pill, and she was like, oh, seriously? And I was like, I apologize. I didn't mean it. I gave her a million reasons why I did it. And it was the silliest thing because I wasn't used to the handle. There's no reason for it. I just did it. So she drove there and as before she was driving, she wanted me to stay on the phone with her to make sure she made it safe. And I'm saying to her, well, as she's already getting ready to come to me, I'm saying, well, never mind. I'll just walk somewhere else, knowing that I'm not going to walk somewhere else because the heat's on in there. She's still got to come in because she don't want the building to burn down. So I was like saying all these other things. I'll just stay out here until someone shows up in the morning or until you wake up again, trying to make the situation better. When actually I wasn't making it better. I was making it worse. Because I wasn't giving her a scenario that made sense. And when I learned this lesson, and it was the silliest thing, and I learned the reason why I was doing that, and I've been doing it my whole life, is because that's what my biological mom did to me. When we watched her, she tried to unalive herself with Pepto-Bismol, and odd as it may be, she was calling for help in a different manner without knowing how to speak for help. And instead of just realizing what she did and say, this is what I did, and accept how life is and accept things, to have the acceptance, she made excuses and said, other things. And it wasn't making the situation any better. She'd done it her whole life. So she passed that on to me, where I'd done it my whole life. And that little thing, me realizing that, healed so much within myself. Because you can't make excuses for things to make things any better when it's already done. It's already done. Unless you can undo what's already done or change it completely, there's nothing else that needs to be said. And it was a weird lesson for me to learn. And I am 50. And I just learned that. I give myself grace, though. And I love the fact that I learned that. I don't care if it would have took me until I was 70. There's no such thing as time. And whose time am I on? Because when it comes from my healing in my life, it's my time. Because there's people out here that haven't learned that. And they never will in this lifetime. So I'm grateful for that. So give yourself grace, please. And realize that just because you're the age you are and there's other people out there may look like they got it all figured out, they don't. You're not alone. They don't. Acceptance. And then you can become the difference. Henry, positive note. That was my positive note.
Positive note. I mean, acceptance is a heck of a good thing to find yourself on. There's a plateau. You can look down on all the things and understand it, but absolutely nothing is going to stop you from having an action movie style kind of montage where you get into shape and turn into this badass over the next couple of months. So why not? You don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of what I see. And the only person who can deem you crazy is yourself, I guess. But it's really in context because I call myself it all the time and I have a lot of fun doing it. So why would I want to be? Don't let the shit own you. And that goes for anybody. So, happy blessed night.
Ah, Christy.
Yes, it's kind of corny in some terms, but it's really not when they say one day at a time. Because like tonight, I think that everyone can be able to go and rest up and feel really good and positive about the way this conversation really went for this podcast and for those that will be seeing it later on. So I think that the most positive thing to say is that take it this one day and really take the small wins, because those small wins we don't celebrate. We're looking at the big wins, and that takes some time. So everybody can celebrate tonight. They're good wins, for the day, and shake off what was not or what they couldn't get done. So toodles, everyone. Blessings.
SGF Grand positive note.
Fear will always rear its head, but I like to look at fear as fuel, i.e., if you getting chased by a dog and you're scared of dogs, your adrenaline rush kick in, you reach speeds you didn't even know you can reach to get away from that dog. I also use that with the mental fear. I use that as fuel to push forward to whatever I'm going through. And I feel like a lot of people should do the same.
Kendo.
Oh, from what I got was be in the present moments with a cup of coffee. Every day is another day to take yourself onto new challenges and just do the best you can.
So, before I get to you, Gilly, because I want you to end it, my grown spawn said to me the other day, an eye for an eye, then everyone will be blind.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you try to get even, and how can you try to fight and whatnot when you need both your eyes to see? So like, I don't know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to share that. But Gilly, your positive end.
Well, I never wanted to get even. I just wanted it to stop. But
I feel you.
But anyway, I like the montage idea that Henry suggested. I'm all for a good montage. My positive message: there are some people that will offer you validation, there's others that will offer you hope, and then there are some people that will hold your hand. And I am grateful for the people that hold my hand.
I will call you on your bullshit, though. I just want you to know that I will call every one of you out on your bullshit. I may love you, care about you, and really, really respect you, and an honor that you're in my presence, but I will call you out when I think you're doing bullshit. Please know that. I don't hold water at all. With that, huh, Kendall? I thought she was about to say something. So with that being said, thank you for allowing us into your home, your heart, your eyes, your ears, your soul, just your time. You can't get that back, but thank you for sharing it with us. May everyone's night be full of positive energy and high vibrations, and we're here for you. You can reach out to any one of us. I promise you, we're here for you. Peace and love, everyone.
Peace and love.
Peace, peace.
You know?
Let's get to the bottom of this one. Unspoken truths that I miss one. Tap into the minds of the people, rather acknowledge before I dismiss one. Atheists, Muslim, Christians, Buddhists, they all got usage, all got perspective. It's a collective. Get to the bottom where the truth is, where the heart's uncovered, where you detox from all of the lies you smothered. What I'm trying to kill you, but with faith you recover. Yeah, peel off the makeup, we finna take off. Never said it'd be a cakewalk. Meditate till we charged up. Execute goes regardless. Decalcify my pineal. Breaking language barriers, we saw millennials. Planets passing age rotations, down me we owe. So down me we know. Sometimes we can be slow, that's why my ears open. Every drop you add could complete the ocean. Speak up, play your part too. Been vulnerable, it's an art tool. Reflect on all the juice like torture. It's on you, tell the truth.
Yeah, we about to have a good conversation. Yeah, let's go. We about to have a good conversation. Yeah, let's go. We about to have a good conversation. Yeah, let's go. Listen. Yeah, aim in the fit so you see in the mirror. Play with your focus and watch it get clear. Polish your crown, turn it up if you wear it. You live in the root, release what you're fearing. And watch it all rise, the righteous will hear it. They calling us twisted, I'm not even caring. Because it's unseen, the mind is too barren. They won't even heal it, they pass it to cheering. We over here healing, conversing and listening. Know that the truth isn't always appealing, but end it with healing and find your beginning. Frequency positive, what you receiving. Perception is up to you, what you believing. What you retrieving, mentally speaking. Life that they breathing, no words from a heathen. Don't know it all, but together undefeated. Conversation, rather want it, you need it. Could fill up your tank before it's depleted. Don't care if you calling on Allah, Jesus, Buddha or Christian, not being facetious. Come to the trial with the students and teachers. All got a voice, we the ears that'll listen. We the ears that'll listen. We the ears that'll listen. Conversation, rather want it, you need it. Could fill up your tank before it's depleted. Don't care if you calling on Allah, Jesus, Buddha or Christian, not being facetious. Come to the trial with the students and teachers. All got a voice, we the ears that'll listen. We the ears that'll listen. We the ears that'll listen. Hey. Yeah. We about to have a good conversation. Yeah, let's go. We about to have a good conversation. Yeah, let's go. Praying for truth cause the world is so fickle. Keeping my mental how clean as a whistle. Attention's a trap, they can lead you astray. Steering this ship through the storm and the haze. Real conversations are lost in the greed. Others get lost in the web that it weaves. Sift through the rhetoric, uncover schemes. Knowledge inherited, this is imperative. I got a lot on my mind and I'm sharing it. Apples to oranges, it ain't no comparisons. I'm the type that'll never break character. I'm the type to make memories and cherish them. Trust intuition and doubt of disparity. Pursuing the echoes of wisdom. Chasing that moment of clarity. Conversation, rather one and you need it. Come fill up your tank before it's depleted. Don't care if you calling on Allah, Jesus, Buddha or Christian, not being facetious. Come to the track with the students and teachers. All got a voice, who the ears that'll listen. We the ears that'll listen. We the ears that'll listen. Conversation, rather one and you need it. Come fill up your tank before it's depleted. Don't care if you calling on Allah, Jesus, Buddha or Christian, not being facetious. Come to the track with the students and teachers. All got a voice, who the ears that'll listen. Who the ears that'll listen. We the ears that'll listen.
It's on you, tell the truth.